Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us. My name is Karuna Reddy and I'm a senior manager at Monocle. I started my career in the firm almost 5 years ago as a graduate, and it is with great pride that this Women's Month I get to spend time with some of these incredible speakers today. On our panel, we have some inspiring and motivating women from our firm who have gathered here today to share some of their stories and experiences. We hope that this allows our audience to consider choosing a career at Monocle and a career in consulting. Monocle as a firm is an independent management consulting firm. We specialize in banking and insurance, and we have a 2-decade history. We've worked with industry-leading banks and insurance firms around the world, with offices based in South Africa, the UK, and Europe. We have the privilege of working with the world's top financial institutions as a bespoke execution partner. And as a company that is committed to developing our people, who are our greatest asset, we believe in providing them with a lifetime of learning and a chance to become part of a unique community of consulting professionals. In this webinar, we do encourage you to leave questions in the comments section. We will try to get to them as soon as possible in our last 15 to 20 minutes of this webinar. But please do feel free to ask questions. Our panel is more than happy to answer. Without further ado, and with that being said, I'm going to allow the panel to introduce themselves briefly. Ladies, if you can please introduce yourself by name, your position, and how you ended up working in consulting. Thank you so much. I think let's start with Phoebe.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Karuna. My name is Phoebe Fiela Maziba. I'm a CASA, CIMA accredited as well, ACG, a very long title. I've been with Monocle for 5 years, end of this month. I joined Monocle after doing a reporting role, and I just wanted to differentiate myself as a CA. I wanted a new challenge, and that's how I ended up in consulting.
Thanks, Phoebe. On to Sine.
Hi, Karuna. Hi, ladies. Thank you once again for this amazing opportunity. And once again, to all the lady listeners, happy Women's Month. I am Sine van Walthasen. I am a principal at Monocle, and I started my career at the company almost 7 years ago after finishing my master's at the Northwest University. So part of my master's involved a 6-month industry-directed project, and I was lucky enough to complete that project at Monocle and then joined the company afterwards. So I think that's my story. It's been an amazing journey thus far, and I wouldn't change a thing about it. Yeah.
Thanks, Sine. On to you, Mercy.
Hi, Karuna. Hi, ladies. My name is Mercy Chimpelo, Senior Manager at Monocle. I obtained my BBSI in Finance from the University of Cape Town. And similar to you, Karuna, started a Grad program at Monocle about 5 years ago. And going strong.
Thanks, Mercy. On to you, Lisa.
Hi, my name is Lisa Walthasen. I'm a principal at Monocle Solutions. I joined Monocle about a year ago, but I have been in the consulting industry for just over 8 years or 8.5 years. I originally studied logistics, so that definitely wasn't exactly a straight path into consulting. I entered the logistics field, realized it wasn't for me, and I think I ended up in consulting because it gave me the opportunity to experience different industries and get exposure to different types of work to kind of help aid my career journey. It just ends up that consulting was the right thing for me at the end of the day, and I don't necessarily need to go into any specific industry.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. On to you, Nyoka.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nyoka Gandon. I'm a consultant in our Monocle UK office now. I have a background in mechanical engineering, so I did my undergrad at UCT. And then I stumbled upon Monocle on LinkedIn because I realized that traditional engineering wasn't for me, and they took engineers. I applied, and here I am 3 and some change years later.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nyoka. All right, ladies. Just before we kick off with questions, I just want to remind the audience that you can submit questions. We will get to them. Yes, please do send them through in the comment section. Cool. So let's kick off rather. I'm going to start with a very straightforward question. What do you enjoy most about your career in consulting? I think, Lisa, let's start with you.
Okay, cool. So what I think sets consulting apart from other career paths, and what I personally really enjoy about it, is just the sheer scale and exposure that consulting provides. Typically, consultants are brought in to deal with large scale projects, meaning that the work you do quite often is innovative. It has a relatively large impact on the organization, and unusual, specifically early on in your career, exposure to top executives. That is kind of unmatched in other industries. I think further to this, you get to see the inner workings of South Africa's largest organizations. From a Monocle perspective, this would be the banks and insurers. And through this, you get exposure to a lot of different industry experts. And over time, if you stick it out, through that extensive and broad exposure, you get the opportunity to become an expert in your own right, which to me is great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm going to chat to Sine. I'm going to pose the same question to you. What do you enjoy most about your career in consulting? I know you have a great analogy that you use, so I'm going to hand over to you on that, Sine.
Yes, Karuna, I'm going to build on what Lisa just said. So I always call us the plumbers of our industry. So we come in, we fix a problem, and hopefully we leave our clients with a long-term sustainable solution. So in short, we get to do concentrated pieces of work, and we learn quick and fast on the job. And in the process, we get exposure, like Lisa said, to a multitude of areas. Now, my favorite part of being a consultant at Monocle per se is the amount or the big pool of knowledge that we get to leverage off of from our peers. And everyone's always willing to assist and help when you do have a problem or you're on a difficult project. And that support does not stop for a project directive. It continues into your career development, into your self-development. So there's always a hand to assist, if I can put it that way. Consulting's fun for me.
Thanks so much, Sine. Phoebe, I'm going to turn over to you. Do you have anything to add to that?
I think the ladies covered everything and they answered the question so well. I'd just like to add that there are endless opportunities as well that are available from a consulting perspective. So currently, New York is in the UK, but I'm working for a UK client from South Africa. 2020, before the pandemic, I was afforded the opportunity to go and work from Cape Town. And those are some of the endless opportunities that are just afforded to you as a consultant. And I really enjoy that I get to be part of that exciting journey and to leverage off of all of these opportunities, especially from a Monocle perspective as well. Yeah.
Wow, that's exciting. How long were you in Cape Town for?
I was in Cape Town for about 3 months, like literally before that first case hit us in March, and then I came back to Joburg.
Very cool, very cool. Thanks, Phoebe. Cool. So how has your experience in consulting evolved in the various stages of your career? I'm going to turn to Mercy for this one because as a fellow grad from the 2018 class, maybe you can expand on your experience there.
Absolutely. So yeah, as mentioned, I started my career in management consulting, specifically here at Monocle Solutions through the Grad program 5 years ago. I've been very fortunate to contribute to a host of different projects over the years, both in insurance and in banking, covering a myriad of topics such as business intelligence, reporting, credit risk, liquidity risk. I'm currently in the liquidity risk space now. And I've had to conduct business analysis, technical analysis, and work with many clients. And more importantly, I've had the chance to work in many different teams with our incredible colleagues. So my journey from grad analyst to senior manager has been nothing short of amazing. It's been outlined every step of the way with all of the support and resources available to achieve my goals. From the onset, you know what you're getting into. So I feel like if you're willing and ready to put in the hard work, consulting is one of those spaces where your efforts are guaranteed to receive the deserved recognition. So yeah, that's been my experience.
And you've been to quite a few clients and on both
I have.
banking and insurance. So you have walked the whole line into
I have.
Thanks, Mercy. Handing over to you, Lisa. 8 years, you're a veteran. Do you have any insights to share?
Yeah, so I don't think I'll answer the question the same way Mercy did. I would shudder to even think about trying to list every project I've been involved in. So I think when I think and reflect back on my consulting career, I'd really break it up into 3 different kind of phases, like you mentioned. 8 years is a very long time, and I think over that time, I've grown a lot and my role has changed a lot. So starting out, the focus was almost purely on learning. I didn't study a technical degree, but my whole career has quite a technical focus. So to enable this, I've had many great teachers and mentors who taught me a lot of the basics. Then during this kind of starting out phase, I was also forced to self-learn, to learn on the job. And through the stage, being very honest, constantly doubting myself, kind of questioning whether or not I have what it takes to be a successful consultant. So that was kind of the first 1 to 3 years of consulting. Following that, I moved into a mid phase of my career. So my focus was then more on the contextualization of learning. So I knew how to do things, but now it was about understanding why we do things and the type of value that adds to the organization. I also started to take on some managerial responsibility. So looking after the people around me, training them up, doing project management, managing my clients, looking at how we actually architect solutions rather than kind of executing on a very specific spec. And more recently, my career has evolved further. And when you kind of progress through your careers, what typically you see is a bit of a triangle. So you start out with a very, very broad focus. You kind of consult on everything and anything. And then over time, through consulting, you're able to get a bit more focus. So my scope of expertise has narrowed to something that I'm really passionate about. Now I'm focused more on very kind of narrow learning versus the broad learning I was doing, and then also just teaching other people. And then and thinking more about kind of the organization. So I have one director that says when you start out your career, you're worried about yourself. As you progress to kind of your middle layers of management, you worry about other people, making sure that they're achieving. And then as you move even more senior in the organization, you start to worry about the organization and its strategy. So that's kind of how I would summarize the journey through consulting.
Yeah, that's very accurate. I think from my experience moving into manager, it's definitely been that shift of, it's not just me on this project. I can imagine as a principal, there's a lot more strategic direction to take into account. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. All right, ladies, now to the nitty gritties. What does your typical day in consulting look like? And then I'm going to add another layer to that to say, from your typical day, how did that differ from other career options? So I'm going to turn to Phoebe because you've had experience outside of Monocle, you've worked in the financial services industry. So can you tell us what your typical day looks like?
Sure, Karina. So that's a very broad question. It differs from day to day, client to client, project to project. But I am going to try give you some bullet points, and just thinking from like start of the day, you start with a to-do list, preparing for the day, which includes a lot of prioritization. I think in the consulting industry, there's times where a lot of things are pulling from all ends. And being an executive, there's also internal meetings and other internal aspects of the job that need your attention. So the to-do list and the prioritization is very important. Then there's the project work where we do the plumbing that Sine mentioned, and talking to colleagues, providing that support. I think Lisa touched on a very important point now, where it's not just you, right? It's the bigger pool. It's the knowledge sharing. It's the and client management as well that then comes into part. This is all part of one day's work. And Lisa mentioned something very important with self-learning. You can be exec, you can be analyst. You never stop learning. It's that continuous learning. And either if it's self-learning or training with Mike and Andre, I think people who know a lot about Monocle know that we've got one of the best training offered to our colleagues that is not just focused on what's out there, but also what do our clients need, right? So you will prepare for the day, do the project work, have internal meetings. I'm captain, or I'm the exec that's in charge of the running club. So it's planning those things. I'm a mentor to a few colleagues as well. It's those mentorship meetings, it's the exec meetings. But as a woman, since this is about why women thrive in consulting, we thrive in multitasking, right? And women get things done. And as long as you prioritize, you have your to-do list, things do get done. And the number one thing is just client delivery, putting the client first, making sure that you are well equipped via training and self-learning to deliver to the client. Now that is a mouthful. I know I just said a lot, but how it then differentiates, like I said in my intro, I've got a CA background, started at one of the big 4 firms. Then I joined one of the big banks, which is one of Monocle's biggest clients. I was there for almost 3 years in a group reporting role. And it's very different, because when you're sitting in a reporting role, you prepare for month end, then it's quarter, then it's year end. So there's all those deadlines. It's on business day 3, this needs to be ready. On business day 8, that needs to be ready. Very cyclical, very routine, attending meetings, your work is reviewed, and you know, year end is over. Okay, let's go. It's another month end, it's another quarter end, which is one of the things that, coming from an audit background, I really had an itch of wanting to get back to that challenge of having multiple things to juggle and having that stakeholder interaction and delivering to the client. So yeah.
Wow, we need to speak, Phoebe, because I'm very bad at prioritizing. You have so much on your plate and you just sound like you're killing it. But yeah, I guess that's the thing with finance and reporting, is that it is very routine and cyclical. You have to meet those hard stops in the year. And yeah, it gets pretty routine at a certain point in time. Thanks so much for that, Phoebe.
And with that, sorry, Karina, but it also depends on the type of person you are, right? Some people thrive in routine and cyclical, so it's not bashing or anything with,
100%. Thank you so much, Phoebe. Over to you, Sine. Same question. What does your day-to-day look like? And how does it differ from other career options? I know you're a consulting veteran, so maybe just take us through your day-to-day in consulting.
Okay, so I can't really comment on other careers. This is the only thing that I've ever known. I've never felt like I needed to change my routine or my day-to-day life. So that's a bit of a difficult one for me to answer, but I do want to mention, even though I don't have the ability to break down my day-to-day life like Phoebe, I can definitely promise you that my day-to-day life involves a lot of coffee. And then once again, or as expected, our day-to-day life starts with project-related work. And I think it's been mentioned multiple times now already, but this differs from project to project. And usually this is in some sort of Microsoft platform, or you're lucky enough to do it in some coding platform. And then, yes, Monocle does offer training if you're unfamiliar. But together with that, I'm very fortunate to have an amazing team that I get to manage. So on a weekly basis, I check in with my team, make sure that their projects are going as smoothly as mine. And then, as Phoebe mentioned, we have this amazing mentorship program. So I get to meet with my mentor on a monthly basis. And then in return, I meet with my mentees on a monthly basis. I partly run with the Monocle Social Hiking Club. Phoebe herself runs, or like she said, runs partly with the running club. So we do also partake on a weekly basis in a lot of social activities with the company. And this is actually amazing because we get to socialize with our colleagues in a different type of an environment, a different setting. So yeah, that's sort of what a week looks like for me. Yeah.
That's amazing. I know you see a very different side of people on hikes, especially if you get lost. You really get to learn a lot about
you. Yeah.
Thanks for that today. On to a more serious topic. No career comes smooth sailing. I think it's interesting to ask about lessons learned when faced with challenges in your career. And I'd really like to hear from you ladies as to what lessons you took away from some of the challenges. So I'm going to start with Lisa. If you can expand on that, or Nyoka. Let's go with Nyoka first.
Sure. Do you want me to go ahead or?
Okay, yeah,
so I was lucky enough to, from my degree, often be one of very few women in the room. So it wasn't a big challenge when I came into banking, getting used to a male-dominated space. But I still think that's an extremely valuable lesson for any woman to have and to learn, is that you need to be comfortable in a male-dominated environment. Often I'm still the only woman on calls. And I think the best thing you can do for yourself is to just not even notice it. It shouldn't be a factor in your thinking. It shouldn't be a factor in the way you work, because there isn't a difference between the way you would work as versus a man. I mean, besides the fact that you can bring in a feminine's perspective. So that's where I think one of the important things as well to learn is to be authentically yourself. So I think that's really important, is that you don't try to fit in with a big male-dominated group and like subside your like feminine side, because you bring that different perspective to the table. And it's always a really nice saying is always that strength is built through differences, not similarities. And yeah, I think that just resonates with me.
Very nice takeaway. Yeah, diversity is so it's just so conducive to innovation, just having different voices in the room. That's a great perspective. Thank you so much, Nyoka. Over to you, Lisa. What lessons have you learned from some of the challenges in your career?
So I think with challenge, I mean, it was summarized so well. But just to add to that, I think the important thing with challenges is just sometimes to take a step back and panic. Well, not panic. Don't panic. Don't panic. Give yourself a chance to breathe. Take a proper assessment of the situation, because I think sometimes it's very easy to get carried away, look at a problem in front of you and say, well, this is insurmountable, or I don't know how to deal with this. So through the challenges I've faced over time, I think the biggest takeaway is take a step back, take a breather, assess really how critical the problem is in front of you. If it is a big problem, I think a lot of the things that I struggle with, and I think many women do, is believing in yourself enough to know that you actually, every person's a human being. Every person makes mistakes. Believe in yourself enough to know that you're good enough, and build up that confidence. I think through encountering many problems in my career and challenges, proving to yourself that you can resolve them again and again and again helps you build up that confidence to know in the future that you'll be able to address kind of any curveball that comes your way.
Wow, that's really something. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thanks so much, Lisa. Phoebe, do you have any lessons to share with us from some of the challenges you faced?
Lisa and Nyoka answered that question so well. When you first mentioned it, I just thought one of the greatest lessons is the power of self, right? And through those challenges, I got to know myself more. What are my strengths? And also just being able to then know that, oh, I'm not very strong in this, therefore being able to tap into the community and the power of having community and a support structure professionally and personally. Professionally, Monocle offers a great support structure from the CEO, CFO, all the way down. Like there's no hierarchical structure. It's a very flat way. Being supported personally and being able to then tap into your family, your friends. You are all-rounded human, right? And that's what Neo and Lisa was saying. Who are you and which communities and what are your strengths? Who can you tap into? Who can you call to say, hey, there's Sune who's really good at this. Knowing when to ask questions. I think that is enough. There is no stupid question. And it's said often in the boardroom, but there really is no stupid question. And that also just goes into not asking a question about a project or professionally, but being able to say, hey, can I ask for this kind of help? And that's when you know what are your strengths, where do you come short, and then being able to tap into that community and ask those questions. Yeah.
I think to your point, you're never alone in your career. Even if if you consider yourself a female consultant, you're never alone. There's always a community, whether it's your firm. There's great people on the client side. Yeah, there's a lot of people to tap into. Thanks for that, Phoebe.
Exactly.
Cool. So on that, why do you think that consulting is a great career choice for women? Mercy, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, Karuna, it's a good question for sure. When I think about it for myself, I can't think of any reasons why consulting wouldn't be a great career for women. It really comes down to the woman as an individual to sit with herself and evaluate her why. Why are you considering consulting, and what strengths do you think you possess that would make you great for the job? This also talks to, I think, one of the questions that was asked about, like, what it takes to become a management consulting. In my opinion, management consulting requires to have impeccable soft skills, so good problem solving, being agile, and being able to quickly adapt to change, having the gift of the gab. If you're at Monocle, it also requires the ability to upskill in various technical areas and apply that knowledge to to any business case. To combine the two of those things requires ambition, confidence in your ability, and drive to work in an ever-changing environment and wanting to succeed in that kind of space. For the women who are tuned into the webinar, I wouldn't have to tell them twice, because we obviously know that women are dynamic. We can be strong, confident, adaptable, hardworking. I could honestly list all of the characteristics. There's nothing that we are qualified for and well suited for that we cannot or should not do. So yeah, that's just my take on it.
Wow. I feel inspired. Thank you so much for that, Mercy. Sune, same question to you. Why do you think consulting is a great career for women? I'm curious to find your thoughts.
So once again, just adding to the list of characteristics Mercy just mentioned, look, we as ladies already possess all the great characteristics that it takes to be a great consultant, right? We are natural leaders. We are planners. We get the job done quick and fast. And if I might say so myself, we also do it very neatly and precise. Which is also very nice. And then I think Phoebe mentioned it earlier, we are absolutely amazing at multitasking. Now, does this necessarily mean that consulting now then requires 100% of your time? No, it doesn't. Like I said, we're great at multitasking. We're great at balancing our life between family and work and friends. We have this unique ability to just put ourselves out there, and we have the soft skills available to do all of this in a very well manner. Now, it's been my experience in the past that whilst finding this balance, my company, which is Monocle, and my client has both been very understanding and accommodating to this. And it's my opinion that we need more women in consulting, because we shouldn't actually be asking the question, why do women thrive in consulting? It should be a natural thing that is just expected, like we are good at what we do.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Sine. Cool. On to my next question. And it's a bit more firm specific. And I'm going to go over to Nyoka for this one. I'm going to start with you, Nyoka. Can you tell me how Monocle has helped you build a successful career in consulting as a woman? I know you're coming in from the UK, so you can also, bring that in. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Monocle, just based on that, going off that first, Monocle exposes you to so many opportunities. So that's amazing. And it's one of the reasons I joined the company to start with, because they let you know from the start what they've got to offer. And that's really, and that was important to me. That was valuable that was laid out on the table. And then in terms of supporting your career, I think there are three big things that I absolutely love. I think they've sort of been said throughout the session, but the first is the training. Monocle has an amazing training program. No matter what project you're on, if it's anything slightly technical, you will be upskilled in that. And it's so valuable to give you the confidence you need as a consultant. If it's business knowledge that you lack, which was my case, I was super impressed with how easy the communication channels are between someone who starts as an analyst and a senior exec director. I think Phoebe mentioned that it's a flat structure. There's no hierarchy. And it really is the case. Like the directors aren't people that you never see, never speak to. They're actively involved in your projects. You'll see them day to day. When pre-COVID, you would literally see them day to day. So it's a really useful and comfortable environment. And then finally is the mentorship program. So when I started my career, I had an amazing female mentor. And I'm not just saying that because she's on the panel with me. But Sine was truly such a good mentor. The guidance she gave me really helped with my developing in the industry, developing in the company. And it was really nice to have someone to sometimes just vent to, sometimes just chat and, chat about some girly stuff, like our next nail polish color, where she got her nails done. It's a really family environment. And I think being happy in your company supports your career.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just to add to that, Nyoka, I mean, the directors know you by name and they know a little bit about you, and it's very conversational. It's a great environment. Thank you so much, Nyoka. Cool. Over to you, Phoebe. How has Monocle supported you in building a consulting career as a woman? Let's add that.
As a woman. One thing I must just say, there's no men, women at Monocle. Very diverse. So it was as Phoebe, as Nyoka, like you said, the directors, the senior exec, everyone knows you by name. So it was how did Monocle support me as Phoebe, coming in with a CA, and Monocle is partners with SEMA. So one of the first few things that I did when I joined the company was get my SEMA designation, which that's why I'm AC CGMA. So that was one of the very first things that I got involved in when I got into Monocle. Also, coming from a CA background, very numbers based. The training was amazing. SQL. It was challenging for me, but I finally passed it. I can code, and it's one of those personal journeys that Mike and Andre, our trainers, take you through. That I guess the word I'm looking for is intentional. That the company is very intentional about your growth and your career within Monocle, saying that you need to be an all-rounder, you need to be technical, you need to have business knowledge, like Nyoka said. And how do we upskill you? How do you come aboard? When I got promoted to senior exec last year, Monocle, I went to the Oxford Leadership Program, which was amazing. Yeah, those are just some of the on paper things, but there's invaluable things like the conversations that you have with your mentor, the conversation that you have with the leaders in the business, over and above the training. But just to say, how do we get brand Phoebe? How do we get brand women or man to being the best that they can be in order to serve our clients and also just in your personal career to thrive? Yeah.
That's perfect. I mean, it reminds me of a mentor I had at the firm, a female mentor who often said to me, Karuna, sometimes I want more from your career than you do. I remember starting projects and Vidi would be like, Vidi, our CEO, our COO, I beg your pardon, would say to me, you're going onto this project. You need some business skills. We're going to enroll you in a course. There was just this proactive intentionality at every step of your career. You were always supported. Very cool. Thank you so much, Phoebe. Cool. On to our last question, actually, for this webinar. What advice would you ladies give to women looking to start a career in consulting? And Mercy, I think I'm going to start with you. What advice would you give to women watching the webinar today who are considering going down this path?
I would honestly just say to go for it. I know when it came to myself, especially coming straight out of university, you can do your internships and whatever else and think that you know what you're getting yourself into when you're entering the finance industry, if that's the space that you want to be in. But if we're being honest with ourselves, we don't really know that much until you've really gotten into it. And that's where consulting becomes that really powerful thing, because you get to learn so much, you get to experience so much, and you also get to identify what your strengths are, where your skills are, where you're best suited to be, and then make a decision based on that. And then again, speaking to my experience, having had the opportunity to experience a myriad of things and still staying in consulting, because, I've identified where my strengths are, and I feel like that's where they lie. I think when you're thinking about women then approaching consulting and maybe having, preconceived notions about what consulting in the finance industry is like, especially when it comes to the demographics, talking about the lack of representation and the barriers to entry for women. It is something that will obviously be on your mind. I can speak for myself when I say that when I initially started working, I didn't really see, myself or enough of myself in the workplace. But I can also say that the more people and, the more of us women who join and stay, the more of us that there will be. I now have so many incredible women in my structure, both in leadership and in mentorship, just like the ladies before me have mentioned, and I'm so thankful for that. So yeah, without a doubt, as time has gone by, the evolution has been clear and it's been positive, but there's obviously still room for improvement. So yeah, I would say go for it. Dismantle the trope, or whatever tropes you have of women in finance, and specifically in consulting. Redefine what it looks like for yourself and what you want your career to be. Yeah, I don't want to sound cheesy, but and say be the change that you want to see in the industry. But it really is that the more of us that take that leap, the better the industry is for it. So yeah, I would say apply and go for it.
I mean, I remember when we started the grad program in the early days, you would say it would be so nice to see more of myself in on the client side of the firm. It's and I didn't get it at the time, but now I understand it. Thanks so much for that. Nyoka, same question. What advice would you give to women considering the consulting industry?
So I think a lot of women second guess themselves, and you're going to go through imposter syndrome. I experience that on a daily basis, and I need someone sometimes to just talk me down, because you need to learn to back yourself, trust your skills, trust your experience, and you learn on the job. That's the biggest thing, is that I think a lot of people think they need to come in with all these skills that'll make you an amazing consultant, but you learn as you go, and it's the best way to learn in my experience. But another thing I would just like to say in terms of supporting other women, I think on one of my first projects, my first big project, I had a really good manager. So she was the type of woman that was always in my corner, always backed me. She sang my praises when I wasn't there, and she never found my success as competition. So that role model was really important and really impressive to me. And now it's something that I can't wait to get to do for someone else, to nurture their career and see their growth. And I think actually this is the second time I'm speaking about where people, like people who've impacted me. But I think that's the important thing, is that you don't realize what a big difference you can have on someone else's career. So I think the biggest thing is for us to just make sure we support each other and help see other people grow and be someone who builds a healthy environment and nurtures other people's success.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I remember hearing about the queen bee syndrome, where there's one, female leader, and then there's only space for one, and it's not true. That's what I've experienced at the firm.
It's the only way, it's the only way we'll grow. And it's the only way we get other women to join when you feel comfortable and happy in an environment. I think that's the biggest thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Nyoka. All right, guys, on to our Q&A. I see the audience has been submitting some great questions. So these are open to the floor. If you feel, if any of you ladies feel like answering, please unmute your mic and go for it. So the first question I have is from Flourish, who asks, what skills are vital to being a great consultant? And I'm sure we've kind of spoken about that, but if you could succinctly define what those skills are.
Karuna, can I go for this one? So I don't think that there is a clear set of skills that you need to possess in order to be a great consultant. But if you have the ability to learn and put yourself out there, you are already 2 steps ahead of anyone else. So I would say if you have those 2 characteristics, then by all means, this is your opportunity to join right now. There is coding, there is project management, there is to-do list, and you have to be organized. But if you're willing to learn, and
it's the right attitude.
Yeah,
it's absolutely the right attitude. Nyoka, I see you've unmuted your mic.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to unmute. But skills that I do think are vital is people have touched on the soft skills, but I think it really is important to not take things personally, or that's one thing that I've had to learn quite a lot, is that when it comes down to it, you're doing a job, sometimes people won't trust you. Off the bat, your client's not going to trust you. You need to build that trust. So you need to not take any sort of challenges where they challenge some work you've done personally, and be someone who can be quite level-headed, quite adaptable. I think that's pretty important.
Absolutely. All right, next question. I know we spoke about lessons learned through the challenges we've encountered, but Zimbini asks, what is the biggest challenge that you faced, especially during the beginning of your career? So early challenges around the analyst level, early consultant level. Anyone have any insights there?
So I'm just gonna say so I was a first year trainee doing my articles, and I'm living in Soweto and traveling all the way to the airport, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just fresh out of varsity. I'm flustered. The auditors who are watching this know about review notes. You don't know how to close your review notes, which is basically addressing some of the questions that the partner or some of your senior managers might have. And that was a very trying time in my early career. And it really taught me to, like I said, ask. All I needed was just to go to the third year and say, listen, I'm drowning. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm crying when I'm driving back home. It's just literally knowing when, like I said before, who and where to tap into that, to just say, hey guys, I actually need training on this. I don't know what I'm doing here. This is where I'm falling short. So especially from like they're saying, beginning of your career, you are, like they say, wet behind the ears. Ask, tap into your support structure. whether personally and professionally, especially, and also just balance. Really find that balance, because it's very easy to fall into the trap of you want to prove yourself, because you just joined Monocle, or you just joined, and then you're just working. You learn very early to saying, join a sports club, come run with us, go for that dinner with your family. Really try and find that balance, because it makes you a better human all around, like just all around, you're a better person, and then you can give 100% to being that consultant, that senior manager, senior exec.
Absolutely. Balance is so key. That was something I struggled with as well. Just work. And then I realized, oh no, I'm a whole human being. There's a family I need to see. There are friends I need to engage with. Thank you so much for that, Phoebe. Any other responses on biggest challenges early in your career? Smooth sailing for these ladies, clearly. All right, so a question on the mentorship program. The question is, how has the mentorship program contributed to your career development, especially from the graduate analyst position, or as a young analyst, I'd imagine? How did the mentorship program help you? I know, Nyoka, you've spoken a little bit about this. We've all kind of mentioned this, but is there any other insights that you can that you ladies can glean on this question? Yes, Mercy.
Yeah, I think I can maybe speak from being, the other panelists who did start in the grad program. I'm actually really fortunate to still have the same mentor that I started out with. Also an incredible female who at every single point in my career made sure that, especially because you don't really know what you're getting yourself into. And like, I don't even think it's a secret. No one's expecting you to know. What it is that you need to know that you can ask the questions that you need to ask, and that there is, I think someone mentioned also before, that there is no such thing as a dumb question. So having that mentorship, having someone who you can speak open and honestly with, and also know that it's not like a secret HR, like you be honest to them and then they rat you out and now you're out of a job. Like, that's not what it is at all. It's a genuine, honest space where you are getting career support and life support, and you're able to learn and grow in that space. It's been very beneficial to me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mercy. Another question around, this is quite interesting. How easy or difficult has it been for you to manage your work-life balance, especially in this post-COVID world? I know no woman enjoys asking, how do you balance your life? But I think it's a valid question in a post-COVID world. So, Lisa, I see you've unmuted. Do you want to go for it?
Yeah, so I mean, it's been very real for me balancing work and personal life. So in the last year, I had a baby boy. So I'm really kind of living, and I like to believe I have friends and family that want to spend time with me. I have a husband that hopefully loves me. So I'm being pulled in a lot of different directions. So to be very honest, and I'll speak to it specifically from being a mother's perspective, just because I know that's it's a theme that women will or may not encounter in their lives, but it won't happen to a man. So I think the reality is that it is very difficult. You need to have a lot of things to kind of manage your time. So first of all, I'm very fortunate and lucky to have a supportive partner. So in the event that I do have to work late, which doesn't happen all the time, but if it comes up, I have someone there to stand in for me. I think something that works for everyone is just being extremely strict with my diary. So when I say that, my life in my mind is a diary. So from Monday to Sunday, and this is literally what I do as a very analytical person, I put diary invites for absolutely or almost every activity I do, including free time, right? So I put that time, and I try not under any circumstances deviate from that. So there's family time, there's going for drinks with my friends time, there's Monocle work events time, and then there's work time, which is broken up, obviously. So just being very strict with that diary. I think the other thing, and it's something I struggled with early on in my career, is just don't procrastinate. It's so easy to procrastinate. A lot of procrastination is also rooted in fear and being like, am I going to do this properly? Let me just think about it for 10 days. When you have a personal life to come back to, you realize that you can't sit on things. Something's going to come up, so just address them as soon as possible. And I think, I mean, at the end of the day, and I read this in the Lean In book by Sheryl Sandberg. She says that, well, and this really specifically relates again back to being a mother, is if you want to go back to work, you have to have a job that you are incredibly passionate about. If you have a job you don't enjoy, you'll find it very hard to jump between one and the other. But if you love your work like I do, and I know the other panelists on this call do, then it's very easy. Well, it's easier to make that transition from being at home and being a mother and being a wife to having a job and a demanding career.
It's about boundaries, really, in your diary. And when
Exactly.
you mentioned creating appointments in your diary, most of the women on this call nodded. So clearly, this is a secret. This is an industry secret. I'm going to try that. Thanks for that, Lisa. A great question here. And I think this is probably open to everyone. So I guess I'll give everyone a chance to answer here. Can you give an example of the projects you work with? They say like the type of problems you solve for your clients. So maybe ladies choose an interesting project and an interesting problem, and talk about that very briefly. We'll start with Sine.
Okay, great. I'm very excited to answer this question because one of the projects that I'm currently working on is actually super, super cool. So as many of you guys on the panel know, and I'm hoping that a lot of our listeners know about it, but there's a new exchange in South Africa called A2X, and all banks are now required to also interact through this new exchange. And there was a problem situated at the bank that when a client comes to a bank, they say that I want to buy a couple of shares in this specific company. We as the trader for that client now needs to decide where are we going to get our client the best price, the best liquidity in the market, and a few other factors, right? So quite a very interesting project to be working with a new exchange. So we, if you go on the A2X website, you'll see that they mention or suggest building a smart order router in between the two exchanges, and you can route trades from one exchange to another exchange, and then your router kind of finds the best place where to buy for the client. So we've been implementing that at my clients, in my client space, and I think it's one of the really cool projects that we have done so far.
A quick question before we move on, Sine, how long have you been on this project? How long has this been going on for?
So we started this project last year, May. We've completed phase 1 of the project, which was completing or implementing the smart order router between the exchanges. Since we've completed this portion of work, there's been new JSE regulation that came out, and we're now in phase 2 of implementing this new regulation. So project has been landed smoothly, everything's working, just a little bit of semantics we just have to get rid of, but other than that, it is a really cool project. It's exciting to be part of something this amazing.
Yeah, that's real value add. That's awesome. Thanks, Sine. Over to you, Nyoka.
So lots of the projects, or not lots, some of the projects I've worked on have been basically around system implementation. Banks often, they have legacy systems from things that they've used for years. They use a system for like 10, 15 years, and then suddenly it's not working anymore. It's time to upgrade. So I often have done those sorts of projects, and they really are interesting because you don't realize how complex it is and how much sort of rubbish you can put into SQL and put into a system, and people just go with it. They don't know what's going on. So we'll come in, or like the team that I'm on, we come in, we take a look at what's happening in the system, make it clear for the client, because that's our job, to help them understand their problem. make this sort of SQL logic clear to them, or whatever system it is, help them map out their processes, map out their data feeds, and then help them get these data feeds into new systems. And it sounds, I mean, now that I say it, I'm like, oh, is this really exciting, or am I just a nerd? It's exciting when you see something implemented. I think that's what sets Monocle apart as well, is that we do implementation projects versus just giving a client a solution and then letting them run with it or not. Yeah. So now we actually see something tangibly get achieved. And yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's also just understanding, with these legacy systems that are like 2 decades, 2.5 decades old, that there were processes in play back then that made sense, which don't make sense now.
Everybody has the same thing of intentions, but somewhere along the lines, things just get left off, and just like shoved into one batch piece of code that just runs.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah, and they're very complicated systems. You're dealing with the guts of a financial institution, so they need to be robust and complex. So it's really interesting to kind of take it apart and almost put it together in a new system.
Exactly. And it's often our projects will be meeting regulations. Now the project I'm on is the same sort of system implementation, but no regulation tied to it. So it's very up in the air. It's all up to people to think of good ideas of how to get something implemented. And that's where the interesting part comes in.
Well, that does sound exciting. Yeah. That does sound exciting. Thanks, Nyoka. Lisa, do you have any interesting projects you want to mention? Specific problems? Not too specific. NDAs.
Yeah, definitely not too specific. So I mean, Nyoka really stole what is my absolute passion in life, and that's system implementation and data migration. So like she said, it's implementing new systems for organizations, helping them kind of figure out how to do it, because it's quite an involved and complex task. And figuring out how to make the new system better. In that process, you clean up their data, you make their system better, you really just help them along the journey. But just to give a different perspective, I think a really exciting piece of work I've done from a consulting perspective is I've done some forensics work, which can be really interesting, where we kind of work through an organization's transactions and picked up fraudulent activity that was happening within that organization, which was incredibly interesting. And it's just amazing to think of the things you can do with code, right? Because you would think that would be a manual process, but we sat down, we wrote a piece of code to go and fish out problematic or fraudulent transactions and brought quite significant issues to the fore.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Lisa. Mercy?
I'm going to keep it short and sweet because I think the ladies have covered quite a bit of what Monocle does do, at least from my side, and what I'm currently working on is an automation and digitization project. So taking, a lot of manual processes and, making them system-based, making it efficient for the client to use, and also doing a bit of system integration work, integrating two systems that are working in silos and making them as efficient as possible. Bringing value to the business in that sense.
Awesome. Thanks, Mercy. Short and sweet. Phoebe?
I was going to say the same thing, just looking at the time. So from one of our core capabilities is, finance, risk, and regulatory. Coming from a CA background, I'm going to be boring. I'm currently working on an IFRS 17 project. I've been on the project for over a year. And essentially the problem is IFRS 17 is a new standard. And with the new standard, new regulation, there's a lot of things that come with it, and we come in and we help with the implementation, the automation, setting a lot of things up. So yeah, from an insurance perspective, because we cover both, as Monocle, we cover both insurance and banking. IFRS 17 is a hot topic, and that is what I'm working on currently.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, ladies. It's a very diverse offering of projects and different business problems that we have to solve. So thank you so much for joining us, ladies. I know you guys are busy. We've spoken about prioritization and juggling and the crazy world that consulting can be. So I really do appreciate your time. And I know that this audience has taken a lot of value from this. guys, to the audience, please feel free to reach out to Monocle. Please feel free to visit the website. We have a LinkedIn page. You can also chat to our people and culture team. Please feel free to reach out to them. They are more than happy to answer your questions if we haven't covered them here. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Take care. Cheers, everyone. Bye.